now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book The Man Crisis comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. A white female teacher in Dixon, Missouri was arrested and charged with inappropriate conduct with male students.
Dixon School District paraprofessional and longtime substitute is accused of inappropriate conduct with at least 2 students. Carissa Smith faces several child sex crimes, including statutory sodomy, rape, sex trafficking, and patronizing prostitution. Investigators say she traded sexual favors for money, alcohol, and marijuana. Detectives say the crimes happened from August of 2023 through September of 2024.
In this disturbing alleged incident, Dixon Middle School substitute teacher Carissa Smith was allegedly arrested and charged with paying her students for sexual encounters with her. And according to reports, Carissa Smith was arrested and charged with 8 counts of second-degree statutory rape, 1 count of second-degree statutory sodomy, 2 counts of sexual misconduct with a student, 3 counts of sexual contact with a student, 2 counts of second-degree sexual trafficking of a child under 18 years old, 1 count of patronizing prostitution, and 2 counts of hindering prosecution for a series of encounters that took place in the Dixon Middle School from 2023 until her resignation in August of 2024. And according to reports, prosecutors state that Carissa Smith allegedly offered money to students in exchange for sex or oral copulation at her residence, and even had 1 sexual encounter with a student while they were in middle school, and did this in exchange for money, marijuana, and alcohol that she gave to students, and also sent students inappropriate photos of herself through the Snapchat. Now, Carissa Smith is currently being held on $250,000 bail in the Pulaski County Detention Center in Missouri, and is awaiting possible more charges as the police continue to interview more vixens. Now, the Dixon police see this as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of the alleged behavior Carissa Smith has participated in, it fits the pattern and profile for feminist indoctrinated women that I talk about in my book, The Woman Crisis. Now, this incident with Carissa Smith fits a growing pattern in a disturbing trend, specifically among white female teachers, where they look to pursue inappropriate relationships with preteen and teenage boys, and look to have sexual relationships with these boys, and look to think that this is appropriate conduct for a teacher. Now, when it comes to a teacher is supposed to understand that there's supposed to be a professional boundary between themselves and their student, and they're supposed to establish professional distance between themselves and their student, because this is part of the oath that they took as related to maintaining the public trust given to them by parents to look out for their students. Unfortunately, what's happening with a growing number of specifically these white female teachers is that these women are looking to go out here and violate the boundary of professional distance. And as they look to violate the boundary of professional distance, this is where they look to pursue these inappropriate relationships with these boys, not because they look to want to have a relationship with them, but because they want to have power over someone, because they have issues as related to having power in actual relationships with men their own age. And the reason why these women basically are starting to pursue these teenage boys basically is rooted in their issues as related to submitting to men in relationships. And because these women have issues with looking to submit to the leadership and authority of men in relationships, what they look to do is pursue relationships with these preteen and teenage boys because they are afraid of having to give up power in a relationship with a man. And what happens with a lot of these women is a lot of them wind up looking to pursue these relationships with teenage boys because they've had a lot of dysfunctional relationships with adult men. And because they've had a lot of dysfunctional relationships with adult men, either possibly due to sexual abuse that they suffered when they were very young, or just a series of failed relationships as they pursued relationships in a path of sexual promiscuity. What happens with a lot of these women is because they feel like they have no sort of ability to have power in the relationship with a man their own age. What they look to do is hope to have power in a relationship with an adolescent, and they hope to have that power in a relationship with that adolescent where they can be the ones who are the head of the relationship, and they can basically subjugate this boy and treat him like the child he actually is, but have these sexual relationships with this boy. And this is where this whole relationship goes down the road to these women going from being sexually promiscuous with adult men to winding up on a road to sexual deviancy. And they are on a road to sexual deviancy because this minor really doesn't understand what they're doing. And even worse, this person who was placed in a position of authority, this person who was, again, given a position of authority under the public trust, basically is abusing their power to go out here and corrupt this child by exposing them to things that they are not mentally, spiritually, or emotionally ready for, and exposing this child to things that they cannot really understand or handle. And this is where this woman's alleged behavior starts to become a criminal, because she's basically, again, corrupting this child by using her position as an authority figure to influence this child's behavior to go and be participating in, again, inappropriate conduct for their own age, going out here and looking to go out here and bring these boys into her home, and again look to get these boys to again participate in inappropriate sexual conduct with her. And what's really even more disturbing is that this woman, as she was looking to do this, basically was out here acting like a male John, or basically she was a Joan, basically going out here looking to go out here and prostitute these young boys by basically looking to pay them for sexual access to their bodies, and again abusing these boys by basically going out here and objectifying these boys the same way a John would go out here and objectify a prostitute, going out here looking to again use their bodies for her sexual pleasure, and doing this by while again corrupting a boy and making him maladjusted and putting him on the road to delinquency by going out here and again looking to go out here and trade sexual favors for money, for alcohol and marijuana, and again corrupting this boy who she was given trust over. She was given trust over these teenage boys, and she basically abused that trust. And as she abused that trust over the course of close to a year, she basically again created a situation where these boys were basically being put on a road to becoming men in crisis themselves. Because what happens to boys like this, again, as they are exposed to sexual content and sexual experiences that they are not mentally or emotionally ready for, is that these boys themselves start going down the road to sexual deviancy themselves, because they have not learned how to have a healthy sexual relationship with a woman their own age. No, what they're learning from this woman is that as she's abusing them is basically how to become deviants themselves. And this again is really again a real serious problem that a lot of people are basically minimizing as related to this ongoing disturbing trend of adult women going out here and pursuing sexual relations with teenage boys and preteen boys. This is something we need to take a lot more seriously because this type of behavior basically, again, does a lot of mental, emotional, and spiritual damage to these young adolescents. And a lot of us may think that, oh, there's nothing wrong with this because in American society, especially Western society, it's seen as some sort of social currency if a teenage boy goes out here or an adolescent boy goes out here and has a sexual relationship with an older woman. It's something that has been celebrated in movies like Summer of 42, movies like the American Pie series, movies like My Tutor, and many other 1980s teen movies. I mean, it was celebrated as a major accomplishment for a boy to have a sexual relationship with an older woman. However, in real life, it's not any sort of accomplishment. No, what this is does damage to this boy. It does damage to this boy because he does not have the mental or emotional capacity to understand what he's doing with this woman. And this woman basically pursuing this boy shows how she has some sort of serious issue because no healthy grown woman wants to go out here and pursue a sexual relationship or any type of relationship with a boy that she is in charge of. No woman who is an adult woman wants to go out here and pursue a relationship with a teenage boy. No healthy women want to pursue relationships with healthy men, and they want to have relationships with men. They want to go out here and have that relationship with a man, understanding that while they are in a relationship where they are supposed to submit to the leadership and authority of a man, they still have power over themselves and have autonomy over themselves in that relationship. That's what a healthy woman understands. But a woman who has had some sort of issue, either due to sexual abuse or a long-term sexual promiscuity as related to a series of failed relationships, she does not know how to work within a healthy relationship with a man. And because she doesn't know how to work within a healthy relationship with a man, this is where she starts looking to pursue these boys and look to gain power over these boys because she feels powerless about being a helpmeet to a man. And this is where the feminist indoctrinated woman starts to have issues. She starts to have issues because she has these power issues as related to having relationships with men. And that's one of the things that's leading to this whole trend of these modern women looking to go out here and violate the public trust as related to the boys that they have been put in charge of. Because again, an adult woman understands she is an adult woman and she treats a child like a child, and she sets a boundary between herself and that child, and she never looks to cross that line, especially with students in her charge, because she understands that the trust given to her by parents is extremely important. She understands that she's been given a precious trust to be able to help a child develop and grow. And part of helping a boy develop and grow, even though he's filled with hormones and is possibly thinking, oh, this teacher is so hot, even though that boy may have those feelings, this woman knows that she is an older person, and as an older person, she understands as an adult she needs to set an example of womanhood for that boy, set an example of womanhood for that boy to let him know that when it comes to women, women have a standard where they respect this boy's adolescence, and let him know that a woman doesn't cross a line with a boy, and because she is looking for a relationship with a man on her own level. That is what a healthy woman does. A healthy woman, again, sets boundaries with boys, and yeah, these boys will have those feelings. They'll understand, let that boy navigate through those feelings, but they are not going to cross that line and go out here and get involved with that boy because that's a child, and again, a child doesn't understand anything, and a woman's job is to teach a boy by setting boundaries for that boy as related to his behavior by showing him an example of womanhood. Unfortunately, with many feminists, they don't understand where the line is, and because many feminists don't understand where the line is between women and boys or women and men due to the dysfunctional culture that they have been raised in, the feminist will go out here and think, oh, it's appropriate for me because the movies show, oh, these teenage boys getting with these grown women, but that's not appropriate at all. No, it's not appropriate in the real world of real life for an adult woman to get involved with a boy, the same way it's inappropriate to show an adult man getting involved with a teenage girl or a preteen girl. Again, this is where we start stepping into the boundary of sexual deviancy. And again, sexual deviancy is something that comes out of sexual abuse and sexual promiscuity. And it's a road where people, again, start to become detached, like this woman basically was starting to become, because as she was out here looking to trade sexual favors in exchange for money, allegedly for money, drugs, and alcohol, she was basically starting to head further down the road to sexual deviancy, and further down the road because she was becoming more and more detached, and again, as she was becoming detached, she didn't see these boys as students she needed to look out for. No, she saw them as objects for gratifying her sexual pleasure, and as she saw these boys as objects to gratify her sexual pleasure, this is where she violated the trust and looked to abuse these boys because she had really serious issues with having relationships with men. And again, nobody really wants to talk about this side of the woman crisis. Nobody really wants to delve deep into it because, one, many beta males get benefits from these kinds of women as related to sexual promiscuity and being able to get easy sexual access, and two, many of these beta males don't want to hold these women accountable for their deviant behavior, and that's why we have this escalation of this kind of behavior, escalation of this kind of sexual abuse and these kinds of sex crimes, and an increase in frequency of these kinds of sex crimes. And these kind of sex crimes, again, do damage to boys. They are not a major accomplishment like they present in many of the movies I have mentioned and many more that are out there. No, what this does is, again, it twists up a boy's whole perception of sex and relationships and basically makes it where, again, it puts him on the road to becoming a deviant himself because he's looking to go out here and look to see women as objects the same way that woman saw him as an object, and look to, again, abuse a woman's body the same way this woman abused his body. Again, this sexual experience that this boy is having does damage to his whole mind and perception as related to sex, and presents him from being able to have a healthy sexual relationship where he can, again, bond with a woman and get close to a woman and have an emotional relationship with a woman, because there's more to sex than just penises and vaginas. This is what many of the feminists don't understand, because they objectify men the same way some of these deviant men objectify women. And again, they don't really see that there's a person attached to those genitals, and those parts of the body are meant to connect a person mentally, emotionally, and spiritually as they love each other and look to get closer to each other. That's what these boys don't understand about sex, that they're not mentally or emotionally ready to understand about sex. And again, this woman basically wound up exposing these boys to things that they were not emotionally ready for. They exposed them to something they're not emotionally ready for. But what's even scarier is most Americans don't want to talk about what's happening with these, specifically these white female teachers, that's leading to them heading down this road to sexual deviancy. And that's the whole scary part about this woman crisis that makes it get progressively worse. Nobody wants to talk about how these women wound up on this road to sexual promiscuity that has them heading down this road to sexual deviancy, and how this road to sexual deviancy is doing damage overall. And again, nobody wants to talk about it because they don't want to, again, the simps basically don't want to avoid to prevent themselves from getting able to get sexual access, because they like getting sexual access from these type of deeply troubled women, because these guys, they basically look to go out here and get involved with troubled women like these. But a lot of these women are so damaged from being involved with those type of guys that they wind up headed down the road to sexual deviancy and eventually become predators themselves. Predators who go out here and prey on preteen and teenage boys. And that's the scariest part about the woman crisis, is that we have more and more of these women becoming teachers, and these teachers are basically going from working in the classroom to winding up on a road to either winding up in the county jail, and if they do get convicted, wind up on a road to the penitentiary, where they have to deal with Betty, Bertha, Big Martha, and Big Lou, and wind up in those penitentiaries again with and then wind up there for a long time, and then when they come out with a destroyed reputation, that's what usually happens in a lot of cases with these women, where their lives are completely destroyed after this, because if you've been convicted of a sex crime, you're basically done as related to the job market, and you're basically done as related to life. And sadly, a lot of these women don't understand that if you're going down this road, you really need to go get some counseling. You need to get some counseling and get some help. Get some mental health help if you are again even thinking about a boy like this, because this is sick and depraved behavior. Sick and depraved behavior, because no woman should be thinking about looking at pursuing a teenage boy the same way a man should not be looking at an adolescent or preteen girl. No, when a woman should be looking at a man, and a man should be looking at a grown woman. But when I looked at this case, again, it was absolutely disturbing to me, but it was all part of, again, a continuing disturbing trend as related to most of these Western women who, because of feminism corrupting the way we see sex and sexuality, don't go out here looking to have relationships with a man, but go out here as women who wind up women in crisis. Now, if you want to learn what motivates women like this to participate in this type of criminal and deviant behavior, or how to identify women who pursue this type of deviant and criminal behavior, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos talking about the woman crisis, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available for the first time in paperback. Stop Simping in the Workplace. Men, learn what you need to know in order to protect your job from workplace predators with Stop Simping in the Workplace. Available in paperback at online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.